Hey guys, it's Neil here from RepRap Blog Phase doing another tutorial. This one on how to build a Prusa Mendel. Prusa Mendel is the newest version of the RepRap Mendel. This version has several major differences from the original version of the Mendel. Some people call it the Cells Mendel. It is about 1/3 the mass in printed parts. It uses less smooth rod, less threaded rod, less belt. It uses almost 1/20th the amount of bearings. It uses, again, about 1/10 the amount of fasteners. Overall, it's about $150 American less expensive to put together. It's different. It also has exactly the same build area as the original Mendel, and it is completely interchangeable as far as tool heads, whether you want to do the frost extruder or the clay extruder or any of the standard extruders like the Adrian or the Wades. They are all interchangeable with this version of the Mendel. So there's really no sacrifice as far as we can tell so far with this version. There was some confusion in the last videos about where you actually source all these things and where you have to get them from. So I'll go ahead and tell you everything here besides these plastic parts you can purchase online today. That's not any challenge to get the parts. The RP parts are a little challenging to get, but I'll give you a few solutions on how to get them. Very quickly, internationally you're going to be using M8 for your threaded rod and smooth rod. In the United States, you'll be using 5/16. You would just use a slightly different set of plastic parts, which are changeable to any diameter you wish. So just be sure to actually print out the one that matches the unit of measurement you're using. Both sets have been uploaded to the RepRap wiki and onto Thingiverse website ran by MakerBot, where a lot of us exchange parts. See, here you can see on the right your tool rod. Again, this can be A2 tool rod, which is drill core rod or tool rod, whatever you want to call it internationally. It'd be M8 internationally, 5/16 in the United States. Threaded rod you can get from your local hardware store. The smooth rod you would need to get either from a fastener supply company or an industrial supply. We usually sell you those rods. Your fasteners you can get from your local hardware store. You're going to need a little over 100 nuts for your 5/16 or M8. You're going to need 6 fender washers, and you're going to need usually a little over 100 regular washers for your 5/16 or M8. You're going to need 3 608 bearings, which 608 bearings are skateboard bearings. You can get them anywhere in the world, usually 25 cents a piece to 50 cents online. They're usually more expensive locally, but you don't have to pay shipping. Whether you're using the metric or the imperial version, you will still need to get M3 5mm socket caps and M3 25mm socket caps for the motors. The screws in the United States will be number 6, 1 inch long. You'll need 20 of them with the corresponding washers and nuts. Internationally, we'll be using M4, 25mm. You'll need, again, 25 of those with the corresponding washers and nuts. That's all the fasteners. Going to the electronics, there's currently 3 sets of electronics that are open source and are of a quality that I can recommend them, or I know enough about them to recommend them. First is what you'll actually see in this build set, which is the Gen 6 boards by MendelParts.com. $200 all the board. Everything's on one board. 4-stepper motors or 4-stepper controllers. The other set of electronics, another set of electronics I can suggest are the old Gen 3 electronics by MakerBot. I'm actually using those, so I won't take them off my machine. Those are the Gen 3 electronics by MakerBot. They're about a year old. They have Gen 4 coming out soon, but I don't know a price for them yet. But MakerBot sold over 2,000 MakerBots using those electronics, and probably I would venture at least 500 sets of the electronics for people building RepRaps. So that's probably the most used set of electronics. MakerBot or RepRap does not do official anymore. Gen 3 used to be the official electronics for RepRap. Now, even though RepRap no longer does official, the closest thing they have to that is a thing called ramps. Ramps is a set of electronics that's printable. It uses off-the-shelf electronics, uses an Arduino and 4 Pololu steppers, and a printable board that can actually be used to run interface between the Arduino and the steppers, and between your machine. You can print the electronics yourself. You can etch them yourself. You can acid etch them. You can roto etch them. You can have them custom printed for yourself since they're open source. The likely easiest way to do it is to purchase the ramps board from Ulti Machine out of the United States. He only wants around $10 for the bare board, and a full kit's around $200. But again, since it's open source, all these you could actually source yourself. You don't actually have to buy them from the original vendors. It'll just be cheaper if you do it that way. So that's the electronics. The motors you can purchase usually through the same vendor that you purchase your electronics. And if you do that, you get the bonus that usually they offer to have the clips already pre-installed. Your belts are T5 or 0.2 pitch belt, depending on which country and what they call it, but it's the same stuff no matter what. It can be purchased through McMaster-Carr, through some of the vendors like Ulti Machine sells the belt. This uses the same belt as the original version of the Mendel, so if they're selling it and for the other, it's interchangeable. The hardest part on any RepRap to source is the plastic pieces. The most expensive route is to actually go to a professional custom prototyping service. That'll usually run you around anywhere between $500 and $1,200, depending on what company and what material they printed out of and everything else. What most people do is either find a friend who has a 3D printer and have them print it for them, purchase a cheap 3D printer themselves, which currently the cheapest 3D printer you can purchase that's open source, or actually period, is the MakerBot starter kit. The next most expensive completely open source printer is the MakerBot Cupcake, or the MakerBot Thing-O-Matic, which has not been released yet. And there will be a completely open source Ulta machine, which is going to be coming out soon, and that will be completely open source. There are closed source printers also that can print these parts. They're a little more expensive though. You can buy the Rapman 3.1 from Bits from Bytes Rapman, the Up printer, which is sourced out of China, or a BFB 3000 from Bits from Bytes Rapman. All of those are $1,500 plus, or I'm sorry, $1,300 plus. So the cheapest place to get these parts that's actually convenient is to go to eBay. You can pick up the parts for about $250. Wide variation in the prices. The Cells Mendel is usually $250 solid. Prusa Mendels are running for around $200. So that's all the parts. All the rest of the videos will be much less talking and much more putting things together. Just wanted to give a quick overview so nobody's confused. Have fun. Thank you.